case for what I'm sure will be a disagreement in whole or in part. Megan Leslie is the deputy NDP leader. Elizabeth May is the Green Party leader. Welcome to you both.
Thanks, Don.
You guys were shaking your heads pretty viciously through that interview. What's the disagreement? I mean, we've got to have tankers going in there. Is what
Why?
they're doing.
Excuse me?
Well, we'll get to your position in a second, but why not? Isn't this good news?
So we just had the Minister of Natural Resources say on national television that everything that the government does on environment has the end goal of resource development in mind.
Absolutely.
Give me a break. Well, I'm glad he actually has come clean with the fact that all of that gutting of environmental legislation in the past budget had to do with pipelines and getting this oil out. Who out there in this government is actually standing up for environment? Who out there is actually standing up for Canadian jobs, Canadian energy security, the green economy? This is ridiculous. So he's out there having his press conference today, which is just to distract away from the fact that they have gutted all of our environmental regulations. They say they want to have this panel of experts to talk about what we're missing with tanker safety. Well, how about an oil spill response center that they cut in the last budget? It doesn't take an expert to know that we need that. It doesn't take an expert to know that we need robust environmental legislation to prevent spills from happening.
It is interesting that he's announcing an environmental protection move. You've said before there's merging, but maybe the departments don't merge, but certainly the intent is merging.
Well, Megan's point's dead on. I mean, there is no one around that cabinet table defending the environment. Peter Kent is also an apologist for pipelines and tankers. The idea of more tanker safety is something that they put in the March 2012 budget. They didn't do anything about it. They've said we're going to do things about pipelines and tankers. They claimed it was in the first omnibus bill in their speeches, which was interesting because in the length of the omnibus bill, they missed that they actually forgot to put in anything about pipelines and tanker safety. We do not, in this country, on the coastline of British Columbia right now, have any super tankers on the northern coast because there has been a moratorium since 1972.
So does this open the way for super
That's
tankers?
what this is all about. This is all about trying to get super tankers the length of the Empire State Building in and out of some of the most hazardous navigational challenges that you can find anywhere on the planet, and they're on the northern coast of British Columbia, near Kitimat, in the Hecate Strait. And the idea, I mean, we both have our favorite Joe Oliver Whoppers. This is going to be right up on my list with we can drink the water out of the tailings ponds eventually, is that the Exxon Valdez couldn't happen in Canada. Excuse me? You're going to prohibit by royal fiat that you never get a drunk captain on board a super tanker? These things are these behemoths with millions of barrels of oil on board take more than 20 minutes to stop from the point that they see a problem. These are not things that we want on our coast in British Columbia, and we will not accept it.
Okay, you want a moratorium. But
Well, I actually just want to add to that. Now they'll have planes flying over with these fancy cameras so we can watch it live in HD on TV, just like Canada Border Service.
see a leader
And
in
there's
the water.
never any fog. There's never any fog in these areas. Tanker spills never happen at night. I mean, the idea that we do need the things they've cut. We do need the oil coast response centers, which we used to have on all the coasts, and now there's a 1-800 number to an office in Quebec. We do need the oil and gas offshore research that they cut that's near Megan's riding in Halifax. We need a marine contaminants program. They've cut all the scientists who worked on marine contaminants. We're about to put more marine contaminants near our water.
But you need oil tankers. You already have them going into the Vancouver port because they've got the bit of the Trans Mountain pipeline going out there. Are you suggesting the NDP says no oil tankers on the West Coast?
There is a ban
on the super tankers on the north.
And the NDP was proud to champion that in the House in the last
They come into the Vancouver port right now.
They are. But we need to figure out what are we doing with this bitumen? Why don't we actually have a plan to develop it here, to use it as the precious resource that it is, to think about how we can use it to transition to the green energy economy, to think about how do we use this for meeting our own energy security needs. We are a country that exports a raw product here, raw bitumen, and we import oil. I don't know in what universe that makes sense. So there's no plan here. It's just sell it to the quickest bidder at the expense of any environmental regulations, at the expense of our health and safety.
One tiny correction is that the super tankers are not going in and out of the Burnaby, Vancouver port. It's the Aframax size. Now, they're not without risks, and if they are allowed to expand that pipeline that Kinder Morgan wants to expand, they'll be loading those Aframax tankers more heavily, and they'll be putting more of them out through the port of Vancouver. So the city of Vancouver, the city of Burnaby are both opposed as the Green Party. We really do, and I agree with Megan on this, why are we not processing bitumen crude? When there's this assumption. Joe Oliver says this is against the Canadian interest. Please table with the House of Commons the report where you did a cost-benefit analysis. They haven't done one. And if they did it and they looked at the jobs, they might just find that Tom Mulcair is right and that they'd get more jobs by turning down the Keystone XL.
Well, it's pretty clear this pipeline or these oil tankers are being increased the safety level and protection and monitoring just to get ready for the Northern Gateway. There's no doubt about that. So this is an add-on.
Increasing.
Yeah, in theory. Where's the risk, though? Is it in the pipeline getting the bitumen to the port of Kitimat, or is the bigger risk in the pipe in the oil tankers taking it away?
Oh, you're asking me about the bigger risk.
I got to pick one or the other.
I think that is a tough question to answer. There's certainly risk in both. I think when you look at Northern Gateway, it's a very different situation than other pipelines because, as Elizabeth said, that coastline is incredible, but it is extremely difficult to navigate. I was up there with Nathan Cullen, who's the MP for the area, and we went out on a boat to actually see for ourselves. And I mean, you have to make these hairpin turns in super tankers as big as the Eiffel Tower. It's not possible.
Well, I'll bet you they try and push it through. Anyway, I want to quickly get some thoughts from you both. The budget's coming up Thursday. I'm not sure if I'll have time to talk. I think you're on the show tomorrow. But Elizabeth, do you expect to see environmental protection increased by any chance, or is there a wildest chance that this funding for that could increase, or do you see more erosion?
Well, I'm worried about more erosion, obviously. There's a lot of rumors, I'm sure Megan's heard them too, that they're going to go after the Species at Risk Act next. So the laws that protect endangered species in Canada thus far have only been tinkered with in Bill C-38. Which was the last bill to mention endangered species. We hear it might be slated for a huge overhaul. Yeah. In terms of budget spending, I sure hope they're going to replenish the Sustainable Development Technology Canada Fund, which is all about development, investment, and really jobs in Canada, but it's green jobs. I hope that gets replenished, otherwise it's going to disappear.
Optimistic, pessimistic, hopeful?
I have to be hopeful or I wouldn't be in this job, but on the Species at Risk Act, I mean, that's the last piece that gets in the way of pipelines, right? Those pesky caribou. So if if government really wants to just do the complete backflip for industry, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the budget. I hope it's not.
I get the feeling they're realizing they might have gone too far,
I think you're onto something with that.
When Preston Manning starts warning them they better green up, they ought to listen.
Okay, we'll find out Thursday. All right, Megan, Leslie, and Elizabeth May, appreciate that.
Thanks.
Coming up after the break.